Hello and welcome to another uncomfortable time with me. You know, of course, I realize that it's not only uncomfortable for me to talk about this, it's also uncomfortable for you, I suspect, to watch it. So I really appreciate that you do, because I think it's really important. I think it is really important for people to, for me as a person, as a human, to look at myself, to look at what is keeping me from being a free and happy and strong being. So I'm just giving an example, of course. That is my example. But this, I believe it's really important for everybody. And this, what I'm going to talk about today, so the symptom is not to have success, not to be successful. And when I thought about how I would talk about this, I became aware that I have to start by defining success. When I keep looking down, it's because I have a little list so I don't get too lost. And this definition really is a bit philosophical or spiritual, but I think it is necessary. Otherwise it doesn't become clear what I at least was battling with. So the way success is defined in society, what a successful person, that is the success that is defined from the outside. Other people say you are successful, so you get to fly first class for your company, or you get to get picked up in a limousine. Oh, I am so important, I'm so successful. Well, actually, I would argue no. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. Oh yeah, I also want to bridge over from the last video. The last video I was talking about money, and having money and not having money. And it could be argued that the amount of money you have is or it would be argued in the mainstream society, that the amount of money you have defines the amount of success. And that is exactly this outer form of success. I would argue it has nothing to do with it, with the success I'm talking about. Okay? I will be talking about the success that I find is important. The amount of money is exactly like the first class ticket or the big limousine. That is a show to the outside, or from the outside. And that kind of success I've actually had, so I know what I'm talking about. Well, yeah, I've flown. I never got picked up by a limousine, but I have flown first class for the company, and I have been in fancy hotels, and I also at one point in my life have made a lot of money. So I've been on that, the outside, the material success. And I remember exactly, or pretty close, how I felt at that time. Now you would think, oh, then she will feel really good. You know, it's like this myth. Actually, I heard about this study that they went back 10 years after somebody had won into the lottery. And they looked at how people were doing 10 years later after they won. And if I remember right, 2% of the people who won the lottery 10 years earlier were doing better than they were doing before they won the lottery. So they were more happy. They expressed themselves to be more happy, more secure, feeling better. 98% were worse off. Because they went into, I don't know, I didn't read the whole study, but I would think that they go into craziness, right? They start with crazy habits, like whatever, gambling in casinos or buying all kinds of expensive stuff, just throwing out this money, and then when it's finished, because it will be finished, you know, winning $1 million in the lottery, how long will that get you if you go on this level of you lose your friends, you get that was a major part that I remember, that people felt they'd lost all their friends, because of course you lose your social context. If you come from a social context of like a working class context or something, and suddenly you're the only one who has all this money, you're in serious problems. I mean, people will be jealous, they will be envious, they will want to have money from you. Maybe you give it to them, maybe you don't want to give it to them. In any case, you will have problems. Because if you give it to them, they will never be able to pay it back. Obviously, if they don't win the lottery, I would say. So then you have to be clear of that. It will not come back, which probably most people are not. So it's not about money. The success I'm talking about here has nothing to do with money and has nothing to do with outside. It's the kind of inner success. The being content, contentness. I think fairy tales talk about that. There was this shoemaker and he was very happy. He was doing his shoes, he was very happy, for example. And usually, of course, they, or like with the, what is that in English? The little helper spirits from Cologne. It's a story about this tailor, and he's really, really poor. He and his wife, I don't think, and there's no children, but they're really poor. And then he wishes for something better. So in the night, the little dwarfs, or I don't know how to, some kind of nice spirits, they come and they finish all his clothes. And he comes up in the morning and it's beautiful, it's fantastic. But they don't want to be seen. And his wife, she's too curious, so she puts out these dried peas and then they disappear. So there was the wealth. They achieve this wealth with the help of the spiritual world, in that case, not winning the lottery. Well, you could argue that is also spiritual, as maybe everything is. That is a question of point of view. But they cannot be content with it. So they're not content in themselves. They have to dig, and then it disappears. So when I was 16, I think, I wanted money, and I looked for a job in the summer holidays, and what I could get at that point was a cleaning, being part of a team cleaning a company, big factory, the offices. And that really was, it was like changing worlds. I've never forgotten it, because these 6 weeks were teaching me so much. There was all these, we were going there by bus, we had to come to a certain spot, we were being picked up by bus. All these working class women who were in the evening cleaning, this was in the evening of course for the next day, cleaning this company. And for me at that point, cleaning was difficult, but I really needed money. I don't remember what for, but I really needed money. So I said, okay, whatever. I'll do it. But it turned out to be like almost an enlightenment situation, because these women, they were incredibly strong in themselves. They knew who they were, and they were proud of who they were. They were proud of themselves. They're having great times making really dirty jokes, which I'd never heard, so it was kind of, and then they were laughing at me. But they also treated me very nicely. They took me in like a little, like a little chicken. Yeah, we have to take care of her. And they did. On the one hand, they were making fun of me because they couldn't believe somebody could be so naive as I was, and definitely was. On the other hand, they were really taking care of me and helping me and instructing me and being really positive. And the way I remember them, of course I didn't meet them very much personally and very closely, and I was never home, but what I remember is they were very strong women. So that to me was very, they were cleaning. It was not well paid, of course. It was very, very minimum wage kind of thing. So there's these women, but they were not like slaves. They were not like, oh, we have to go and clean again, at all. They were strong, they were having fun, they were making jokes, and they were cleaning, and very fast. They were really good at cleaning. So this came to my mind when I thought of this other definition of success. The success which I strive for comes from inside. It is an inside feeling. It's a standing. I'm doing my thing. And this success, this is very, very difficult for traumatized people. And now, since I'm doing this Children of War, coming from my parents who are the Children of War, who are Children of War. There's many Children of War. I mean, in my family it's the Second World War, and there's so many wars. So this is, of course, valid for everybody. Success becomes very difficult because you learn to keep your head down. It's really dangerous. However, there's bands of people raping, for example. So you cannot be pretty, right? You kind of make yourself ugly to hide. There's bombs falling. You go to the basement. Again and again and again, right? Or to some bunker or something. So, or even in the family. I mean, if you get traumatized by family issues, like that within the family it's dangerous because, for example, there's beating, there's dangerous situations, there's freaking out, there's things that you just can't deal with as a kid. You have no way of dealing with it. What you do is you hide. You hide into something. I hid in books, I think. I also hid on the toilet. I remember that I took my book and I locked myself into the toilet, and I was sitting on the toilet for 2 hours. It's a form of hiding. There's trauma. Trauma is frozen fear. Frozen means it's there, it's hard, it's not developing. Normally when you you're dealing with it in somewhat way, and then in the end it's, oh my God, it's over. It's never over. When there's trauma, it's not over. Or now I'm saying never. Of course, I'm working on exactly that. I'm working on getting up the heat to thaw it up. Okay, I think I can show my picture and maybe it will be clear. So this is a picture that I hope signifies how I experience the extremes. That is what I in this case try to. So there's the closet. It's a closet, and there's the child. The child hiding because it is so traumatized, and it has learned that you have to hide because the world is dangerous. You do have to hide. And to make it really obvious, I painted this fairy tale world on the outside, this children's dream of a fairy tale world, like laughing flowers and little cutie bugs and the birds in the sky, and there's some fairies somewhere that are a little bit hidden there. I don't think that will show it. They're kind of half seen. Flowers but this child, the traumatized child, it doesn't dare to step out and play because to hide, because the world is so dangerous. There's so much that can happen. There's so much frozen. You cannot trust it. You don't believe you can trust it, whether you're aware of it or not. Most people, I would argue, are probably not. So they make a world with a closet. However, making a life in the closet. And to me this is, which makes you feel helpless. I mean, if you don't dare to step out, and other people maybe step out, you see people stepping out. I had this a lot as a child, that my friends could do things I could not. And I didn't understand why I couldn't. But why don't I dare to do this? I didn't understand at all. Because I never perceived myself as a very fearful being, and I believe that as a spirit, as a spiritual being, I'm not. I probably wouldn't be sitting here otherwise. But as a physical being born 1964 with the history I have, I am. It's I can well, it's gotten a lot better, but I can really look back at my life and see how I reacted with extreme panic reactions to triggers which to other people were laughable. Oh yeah, ha ha ha, that was funny, wasn't it? Oh my God, and to me it's like I'm shaking weeks later, basically, just thinking about it. So there's a feeling of helplessness which comes from this. There's a feeling of not being good enough. I can't do this. And that of course completely limits success. This typical American thing, you go out there and do your thing. Yeah, well, my thing is hiding in the closet, It is not, but I mean, it is so difficult to go out and do your thing if you are thus limited by fear, by trauma. And it is not talked about. It is talked about much too little. Yes, there's people talking about it now, but I mean, I would argue that this is incredibly common on different levels, but incredibly common. You can get traumatized because you had a car accident as a child, maybe, and you get traumatized with a car accident. The parents maybe pass out or whatever; they cannot help you, and you're traumatized there. And the work to thaw up this fear, I would argue, is not done enough. It's not done enough. So people walk into their adult life, they have no idea. This is not being talked about in schools. This is not taught. And yet it's a fact. A human fact. And you get, depending on where the trauma is and how much trauma there is, you get locked up into fight and flight to a more or less degree. And fight and flight really is the opposite of playing and flying and doing your thing, being shining in your what it is that you do. Is it cleaning? Is it shoemaking? Is it to be a wonderful nurse that helps people every day? I can get so impressed by all these people that work with handicapped people. I've done it, not so much, but I've done it, and it's really challenging every day. And handicapped people don't play by the rules. They have their very own rules. That is a great challenge, to deal with that in a loving, understanding way, to help them have a good life. So this also becomes a spiritual issue to me, because I believe in creation. I've totally stopped watching like nature films, because maybe this has changed because I haven't seen any for many years. But these so-called nature documentaries, they more and more became into, and then is the lion, and the antelopes are running. This survival of the fittest story, that is what nature is. And that is not true. And it's scientifically not true. I just heard this beautiful Austrian, oh my God, how do you say that? Ranger, I think. It's somebody who takes care of forest. You can actually study it. In Austria, at least. They take care of big forests. And he was giving this speech. He also came from this survival of the fittest thing. He's also an economist. He has studied economy too. And then he found out that the new science says that trees, he's really into trees, and it's really beautiful, the trees not at all fight against each other. They do that for a very short time. When they're small, everybody grows as fast as they can. They do their own stuff to get to the light. But that's only until they're established. Then the ones that are established, and this is measurable by how much they grow and so. The most successful trees, this I got from him, the most successful trees are the ones that best cooperate. They cooperate. The forest is a cooperation with the animals too. With everything. With the ground, with the bacteria in the ground, of course. Feeding them, getting sugar. A forest is cooperation. It is not survival of the fittest. And we know this, scientifically, we know this. It's about cooperation. But as humans, we are so shut up in this closet of survival of the fittest. If I don't take it, somebody else will. So this really is a spiritual topic, I think. I believe, and the science I read, and of course you could say it's a bubble. Yes, of course that's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm looking for, and there's more and more science coming out that nature is a corporation. I mean, look at the body, right? My cells, if they start to fight against each other, then I have cancer. That is, or maybe, okay, now. Anyway, that I don't know if that is the reason for cancer. I really don't know. Some people say cancer is a healing process, so I actually don't know that. But anyway, it's easy to imagine that if my liver cells start to fight my heart cells and my skin cells, I'm having a serious problem. And of course it is not the case. In a healthy body, everybody's doing their thing as good as they can, as good as is possible. Working together. That's my body. So this is really, really important to understand that is, if we accept to be locked in the closet and hide, we accept that, this fear, we accept the frozen parts, if we accept the rule of the, I think of Anderson, the fairy tale of the Snow Queen, I think it's called in English. If we accept that, then there is no cooperation. And thus, I would argue, we are outside. That puts us outside of creation. And we cannot be outside of creation because we're a part of creation. So what does that make then? We destroy the earth, maybe. Are we doing that? We've been knowing that for 50 years, haven't we? That we do that. And does anything change? No. No. We're still doing it. Why? I mean, we know it. We're smart guys, humans. We know a lot. Why? I would argue, this is my argument from my personal, because we're in the closet. We're in the spiritual closet. We're not being human. We're not being what the potential of a human being is. And the potential of a human being is creative, joyful, expression of your stuff, what it is, your genius, your way of living, of making jokes, and it is the opposite of the Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Hennes and Mauritz, everybody the same, this uniform world. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. It's the ma and pa shops, you know, they're doing their thing. It's the little restaurants, they're doing their thing. That what is disappearing right now, but I hope it will come back, because that's the fun part, I think. So, the feeling of it would be lovely to get comments. I know not many, at least at this point, not many people are watching it, but successful. Yeah, I think it is, I am convinced it's an inner feeling. And what is on the outside, that is of no avail. Of course you can be rich. Of course you can have a lot of money compared to other people. Obviously, it's always in comparison. But the feeling of I am successful is not in comparison. That is, I am me. I'm doing my stuff. I'm doing my salads in the garden, for example. For me, it's a feeling of success that I have learned since I moved to Sweden. I knew nothing about gardening, and I really had a longing to know about gardening, and it was difficult for me to learn that. But now it is so nice to. Now I've also learned about the wild herbs. So I'm picking wild herbs, the ones that are good for you, which actually have much more inside them than the stuff I can do in the garden. So I do both, and then I make salads with, and I do it all summer. That's for me a feeling of success to all summer long, whether it's a hot year or a cold year, to have food, to have every day something on the table which is homegrown. And I have some chicken, and I'm really far away from self-sustaining. I mean, and I don't, I cannot do all the things. I just met these on this market. I met this wonderful couple from Iceland, and they knew everything about wool, you know. And she said, "Well, can't you? What is it? Is it spinning? It's like, you know, to make threads and this." No, I said, no. I can knit socks, though. I've taught myself to knit socks. But yeah, all these old skills that enable you to do your own stuff, to be self-sufficient. Many of them are very far away from me. So that's not my life in this life. But it's a good feeling to do something. It's a good feeling to, yeah, my salads. That's a good feeling. And some other veggies, some zucchini, some squash. It depends on the year, because here the summers can be cold, then you don't get so much. And other summers are too, like last summer was too hot. It was really difficult. But it was possible. And that makes me happy. That gives me a feeling of success. But there's no money in it. I mean, if I start to pick herbs, or for the first, and sell it. I mean, for the first I wouldn't be allowed. It's against the laws, and it's some kind of, you know, I wouldn't be allowed to sell it. But even, I mean, it would be impossible to make money with that. So it's not about money. It's about a feeling of completion, maybe. Maybe that is the kind of success I talk about. To feel holistically, to feel round and complete inside of yourself. And it doesn't matter which car you drive, or what the neighbors might, yes or no, think. And I think from that feeling you can really do good things. So it is really necessary, if you want to go there, to look at what is stopping you. And I think very, very often it's trauma. and it needs to be looked at and seen and accepted. I mean, it's really hard to love it, but I can accept it as part of my path. I mean, I believe I'm not, it's not like coincidence that I was born in my family and I have all this. I believe this is how I make peace with it. Because for a long time I was felt really victimized. And as you saw in the last video, I still do sometimes, of course. I mean, I'm not, this is not like I'm on the other side. No, I'm on the path. I felt really victimized by, you know, getting raped as a baby and having all these fears and being German. I mean, I was called Nazi just for being German. You know, shopping in the Netherlands, being called a Nazi. I was born in 1964. I mean, the war was over for 45, right? 19 years. I actually believe that few people are so little Nazi as the kids that were born in my generation, because we really got it day in, day out, in school, in history, in German, in whatever. Never again, never again, never again. I agree, never again. I totally agree. But I've been called Nazi. I've been called Nazi in Spain. I've been called Nazi in the US. Of course you could say that's stupid people. That's not the point. The point is that I have been victimized by that. So my answer to that was I just never admitted I was German. I spoke English then and pretended I was American. Then you don't have the problem. So I was for many years victimized by all these difficulties and my handicaps that I felt, my not being able to do things other people were able to do. Like, I don't know, whatever, be in front of the camera or go out and have a party. Just have fun. I was able to do that, but not as a rule. And of feeling so helpless and going back and back, having bad dreams and feeling victimized. And my big step, the big window I opened was when I accepted for myself that there's reincarnation. And then I also had some very strong experiences where other lives just kind of exploded in my head. They came back to me, which is not an easy process, but very interesting. So if there's reincarnation, so we live many lives, then I argue there's also a choice. There's a choice where you go, then there's a meaning, then there's a teaching, then it's a job I accepted, so to speak. And from that point of view, whether it is true in the big cosmic spiritual meaning or not, it gave me a possibility to step out of the victimization and start to put it together. Because then there is a meaning. It's not wild lions attacking from all sides and you don't have a chance. Then if I choose the job, there's a saying in German, the angels never give you more than you can bear. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. But if I remember that, then I always know there is a window. this looks really dark, this looks really terrible, this looks really frightening right now, but there must be a window, because that's just how it is. That's nature. That's, if you want so, that's creation. There is possibility. And maybe I die. Well, we all die, don't we? I mean, it's like, fine. You know, when you read near-death experience, or listen to people, what's her name? Moorjani, this fantastic Indian woman. Then it's really good on the other side. Or the brain, the neuroscientist Ebenezer, what's his name? Oh my God, names are not my strong side. Who had a near-death experience and talks about it, and actually confronts his colleagues with that. The other side is not so scary as maybe the church or whoever wants to make us believe. So because I think this is a spiritual topic, the topic of success, it's not a material topic, it's a spiritual topic, or that is how I interpret it. The sentence I used to balance it, this time I translated it before, because of course I do it in German, right? When I talk to my subconscious, I do it in German, so I have to translate it, so it's not so elegant maybe in English. I now accept God's love and plenty, and my positive part in creation. And that is really a very different way of looking at life from the way taught, I don't know, it's almost like hypnotic, right? It's like again and again and again you have to do this, you have to drink Coke to be free and happy and sexy, or use this and this deodorant or something. It is such a yeah, I would almost call it hypnosis. So this is a completely different way of looking at the world, to see creation, whether you put in a God or not. If you look at it purely scientifically, as a fantastic cooperation of incredibly different beings. The birds and the bees and the alligators and everybody, the rats, everybody plays a role. Huh? It's not only about roses. Roses by themselves are nothing. It's it all. To say it's all sacred. It is all wonderful. It is all part. And I, with my shining nice parts and my not so nice parts, right? I'm also, there is a judgment. You notice I'm not over judgment. I am not over judgment. I'm working on it. At least I noticed it. Now, it's all part. And as everything has a positive part, I have. Must be so. And everybody else. Wow, thank you very much for listening. I would love to read some comments on any of this. Eben Alexander is his name, the neuroscientist who wrote a book about it also, had a near-death experience. He was basically dead, and then he had incredible stuff happening there. And then he came back. And Anita, her name sounds so Italian to me, but I know she's Indian. She's from India. Something like Moorjani, her name I don't have yet. Well, you find them. Go out if you're interested for a near-death experience. That really is an interesting way to put life into perspective. One way. There's many ways. This is my way. Thank you.